UFL's going into week 9. We have a hot MVP campaign, and today you're going to learn all about it. Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard podcast. We have the UFL, 2 more mandatory weeks left, even though, well, the season's over, at least for the regular season. We have the exact playoff picture already 2 weeks ahead of time, and still we have to finish out these predictions. We still have a lot of interesting things and a lot of interesting developments going into the playoffs that we have to talk about. Smokey, how are you doing?
Oh man, I am good. I am better than Bob Stoops right now, because I would be willing to bet at this point in time Bob Stoops is going to be out of a coaching job in the UFL next season. If he comes back, it'll be a tragedy at this point. Man, how can a defensive coach not put together a defense whatsoever? But anyway, doing good. How are you, Alex?
I'm better than, let me think, Defenders fans. Yeah, I'm better than Defenders fans. Had a chance, no AJ McCarron, still couldn't finish off the Battlehawks, and then the Brahmas took care of business, and you are out 2 weeks ahead of schedule. No more playoffs, no excitement. Got outplayed by a backup quarterback. That's what you get. I guess Jordan Tammer wasn't 100% either.
Nah.
That was pretty clear. But the Renegades, I mean, it feels like for once it wasn't the defense that lost that game.
Yeah.
This time it felt like you're underscoring as well, right? You can score 20 points usually, or should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was almost the tale of two halves. The first half, the Brahmas absolutely dominated. And then in the second half, the Renegades had a chance to come back, and they blew it right at the end. They could have won that game. Absolutely. But yes, their offense was not firing in the first half, and their defense was halfway decent in the second half. However, it's just not enough, and I am sick of Bob Stoops at this point. I can't wait till next season so I can just pick another team. I'm ready to get on to another team.
Maybe you just get another coach.
Well,
maybe get another coach, keep Luis Perez, and then you can stick with the Renegades. Last year they were good.
Yeah, maybe so. It was still Bob Stoops though, but yeah, maybe so. A new coach might just change things, and I can stick with them.
Yeah. Let's think of some ideas of who would be a good XFL head coach or UFL head coach next year. See some replacements there. But let's talk about week 9. We got some matchups here. Some interesting. Well, more or less interesting. Just some of them just interesting to see about the score. There's one that interests me the most, but we'll get to that first. Let's start off with the Battlehawks and the Renegades.
Yeah, Manny Wilkins. I actually mentioned him before the season started in our first episode of the UFL this season, and I thought maybe he had a chance at coming in and playing, but of course McCarron came back and put the kibosh on that. Of course you're going to play McCarron, but who knows if McCarron is going to be able to play. Is he out for the rest of the season? You think he's going to come back? He needs to come back if they're going to have a chance at winning this championship. However, they did get the job done, so it's not that big of a deal for right now, but you're going to need him for the playoffs. On the other side, like I said, the Renegades are absolutely horrible. They have a potent offense that seems like they're done with the season at this point in time. Luis Perez is still playing his heart out, though, to tell you the truth. It wasn't his fault they lost once again. It usually is not. He's not been absolutely dominant the entire season, but he has been one of the top 3 to 4 quarterbacks the entire season, and Luis Perez is probably one of the best spring league quarterbacks we've seen in the modern era here. But Sal Cannella also, the tight end, that is another bright spot on this team. But other than that, they just can't get the job done. The defense is absolutely horrible. However, with Manny Wilkins and Jacob Sailors, Wayne Gallman actually played a little more than Jacob Sailors this week. No Jacour Pearson out there is also going to hurt them in the long run. Hopefully he's able to get back, but Hakeem Butler is still probably the best wide receiver in here. And Jake Sutherland looks great. So Anthony Betch has a problem. You know what? I'm not even going to say it's a problem, because if Manny Wilkins can continue to produce on the ground like this, they may be not as good as McCarron being out there, but they may be sufficient to make it all the way to the championship. They're just going to need him for the championships if they ever plan on beating the Stallions. As for this one, it's obvious. I thought about taking the Renegades just because the predictions are kind of over for me at this point. I took the Renegades last week just because I had nothing else to lose, and we see how that turned out. Taking the Battlehawks at home, or on the road, sorry.
Yeah, on the road. Yeah, give me Battlehawks as well. See, I don't have a doubt that A.J. McCarron will come back for the playoffs, but what they've done last week by winning with a backup quarterback against DC is they've earned the luxury to not have to rush him back because they're already in the playoffs. They are set. The only question is, will the XFL championship be held in St. Louis or will it be held in San Antonio? But that is not enough of an importance, I think, to rush back your banged up, not 100% quarterback who you need in any case in the playoffs, no matter where you're playing. So they can afford that luxury of keeping him out another week, maybe even keeping him out another 2 weeks, because Manny Wilkins, while not on the same level, did a good enough job, and he won the game, and he beat the defenders when he needed to. Plus, he adds that extra element on the ground, which usually the Battlehawks do not have. This is as pure of a passing team as you'll find in spring football. And now with Manny Wilkins, they can get some things done. They can play the read option. They've had some fun. And I have no doubt that no matter who's the starting quarterback, like I said last week, it won't matter. They're going to beat the defenders. And this week again, they're going to beat the Renegades no matter who the starting quarterback is, because the team surrounding the quarterback is of so much of a higher quality. So I will take the Battlehawks to win at Arlington. Now here's one that I find a little bit interesting, because this is the last potential foreshadowing of the UFL championship. We saw the Stallions play the Battlehawks, and this time they are playing against the other XFL team that's going to make the playoffs. They're playing at San Antonio to face the Brahmas.
Yeah, I don't think there's a doubt here, but there's always a chance because everything is wrapped up. How is this going to go? Or who's going to sit? We know that the Stallions' defense is not the best in the league, as it looked like at one point in time, but either way, they still got the job done against the Roughnecks. And the Roughnecks actually put up points in that game. But I think it could be a symptom of them just sitting some defensive players or just holding back in general. Adrian Martinez, not the best day passing, although he did throw for, I believe, 3 touchdowns, 2 or 3. So I don't know if that hurts his MVP hopes there, having the interception or not. But then again, his opponent in that race is likely out for maybe weeks to come. Who knows? Ricky Person taking over as the main running back in that offense, it was one of the best decisions of the season. Oh, this might be a tight end MVP battle right here. Jay Sternberger versus Cody Latimer. Man, Quentin Dormady had one of the best weeks I've ever seen him play since we've been watching these spring leagues. John Lovett also is probably the number 1 running back in the league at this point. John Trey Kirkland. Man, this should be a great offensive battle. Especially we know the Stallions are letting up points at this point. This should be a really good Skip Holtz versus Wade Phillips. It's a battle as old as time right there. But you still have to go with the Stallions, even though the Brahmas should have a chance in this game. The Stallions still want an undefeated season, so they need this win just for the bragging rights, if nothing else. I will stick with the Stallions on the road.
Yeah, that's the only goal at this point, I figure, for Birmingham, because everything is clinched already. That 10-0 is something that they haven't done yet the past few seasons, as dominant as they've been. And that is on slate for this year, and the Brahmas are the last big step to take, the big hurdle. I also agree with you. I think they'll get it done. They also have the luxury of having 2, even 3 elite spring league quarterbacks on that roster for Birmingham. So if they decide to rest someone, it's no problem. Depth is there. A little bit of injury concern on the defensive side since the middle of the season. Unfortunately, Scooby Wright's out, but they've recovered, and they've kind of, they've stuck with it. They're 8-0. There's nothing not to like as a Stallions fan. So they keep going, and they put one on the Brahmas and officially beat every team in the league and show that they'll be favored going forward for the playoffs no matter who they're going to be playing. Now, Sunday games. We have 2 games going in parallel there, and the first one has, well, these are the completely meaningless games, but the Defenders and the Showboats with some honor on the line.
Well, this is kind of a tank bowl at this point in time, right? Jordan Ta'amu, like you mentioned earlier, he did play. He was not 100%, but he kept the Defenders in that game and gave the Battlehawks a run for the money. Darius Higgins is now their lead running back because Cameron Harris has absolutely fallen off. He only had 3 runs in this entire game. I don't know if he's feeling the injuries or what's going on there, but their lead running back is no longer the lead running back. Alex Ellis, 4 for 58 with 1 touchdown. I like Alex Ellis. You know, I never was a Tennessee fan, but I love seeing guys that I used to watch in the SEC excel in these spring league, so it's always fun to see him out there. On the other side, there's nothing to be happy about. We did get a Josh Love appearance, which is kind of cool to see him back after his run with the Panthers last year. But other than that, it doesn't matter. Case Cook is Josh Love. Whoever they throw out there. Dawood Davis and Vinny Papale are the highlights of this team. I do like Sage Harada at tight end, but they are absolutely abysmal on offense and defense. The Defenders should get a win here in a meaningless game on the road.
You know what? Yeah, kinda. But I'm gonna go out on a limb just for entertainment purposes only, because these games are so meaningless. I'll take the Boats because to me, here's why. I want to see them have a better record at the end of the season than the Renegades and the Roughnecks. And to me, that's because they kind of started off, and for most of the year, they've been the better team, the slightly more promising looking team, and I just want them to be the one team to get that win. If Case Cookers can put one together, I think it's fine. I mean, they had a close one going against the Panthers. They may well have won it. I think they're overdue one, and I think the Defenders are the team that it's probably going to happen against. So Boats go to 2-7. They're going to be 6th in the power rankings when it's all said and done, or maybe even 5th. If they beat the Defenders now, maybe have to reconsider that. But they are a better team than Arlington and Houston for the season average, and I think it should be reflected in the record. So for no other reason other than sympathy, I'm taking the Boats. Get it done here against the Defenders. Also don't like the Defenders, so whenever they lose, whenever I have an opportunity to pick them to lose, I will take it. And speaking of the Roughnecks, they are hosting the Panthers at the same time today. What do you think about this one?
Well, I wish we could have seen Bryce Perkins play for the entire season. They've been really fortunate at quarterback to hit on quite a few guys this season. But Bryce Perkins looks phenomenal out there. Great running quarterback. Now we have a ton of backup running quarterbacks in this league that are showing out. Matt Colburn, Samson Nakua is an absolute star. Imagine if they had him all season too. Cole Hikatini is back to top shape. On the other side, there is nothing to be happy about. Not even Mark Thompson, who was at once the best running back in this league, or the previous iterations of this league. Kiki Chisholm looked great, though, on the work that he did get, but Curtis Johnson is an offensive coach that can't put together an offense. Now, you can say they scored a ton of points, technically, against the Stallions, but like I said, they had nothing to play for. They're going to let them score. They're just going to make sure they win the game. It doesn't matter at this point. The Panthers should take this one on the road.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, none of these teams have anything to play for except some honor. Panthers are 6-2. They've just been getting it done. They have the best kicker in the league. Probably the best special teams unit overall in the league. And just, again, it showed last weekend when they managed to outlast the Showboats. The only thing that concerns me about the Panthers is that carousel of quarterbacks. Not because the results aren't there, just because I'm superstitious about a bunch of quarterbacks rotating, probably for no rational reason. But I'm wondering how this will carry into the playoffs. Quarterback 1 is out, quarterback 2 is out. Their quarterback room is completely different now than what they started the season with. They're still getting it done, mind you. They're winning games, and they're using the passing game. But I have this irrational fear of quarterback rotations. It just seems to not make sense for professional football. Even when teams win, it's hard for me to stomach. But right now the Panthers are doing it. Whether that's going to be something that works against the Stallions, however, will be a whole different debate. I'm not so confident in that, but the Roughnecks are arguably the worst team, or second worst, in the league, so Panthers get this one as well. We only disagreed on the third game, right? The Defenders and Showboats, for pure entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll stick with that. We have sort of an idea up our sleeves to make next week's predictions a lot more interesting. If something that we're, I think we can do it. We can do it next week. Well, we're not going to. Should we say what we're doing next week?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Because the playoffs are over and our prediction game, there's like a huge gap, right? I'm leading by 7 points, I believe. So it's nigh on impossible that you'll catch me. We could have, like, we're thinking we'll have a week where we predict the games at random. So, like, draw a name out of a hat and I'll say, okay, Smokey, you now have to justify why the Renegades are beating the Stallions. Or, like, I'll draw the Roughnecks. I have to say why the Roughnecks are beating the St. Louis or whatever. I think that could be pretty fun because it will, like, give you a reason to come up with a creative idea in week 10 to pick whatever team you forces. This doesn't really matter who's winning anymore anyway. And then the playoffs obviously come around and then it will matter. And we'll be back with that as well. But this week we're also going to talk about our MVP rankings because there's only 2 more weeks left in the regular season. That's going to be a separate single video, but for the podcast viewers, it's coming right up. So that's where we're going next. You can check that out as well if you're interested. I think we have a pretty good idea on the last few candidates for MVP, and we'll give our takes on that in the next video. As for that, drop us a like, leave us a like, and we're going to see you right in that next video.
Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's 4th down and you